There are some voices the world never forgets. Voices so powerful, so unforgettable, that they seem larger than life. Tina Turner had one of those voices. She was fire, energy, and strength. When she stepped onto a stage, she did not just perform, she took over the moment completely. To the world, Tina Turner looked unstoppable. She was bold, glamorous, and fearless. She became a symbol of resilience, survival, and what it means to rise after being broken. But behind the fame, behind the legendary voice and the dazzling smile, was a woman who lived through extraordinary pain. Her story was not only one of success, it was also one of suffering, loss, illness, and survival. And by the time her life came to an end, Tina Turner had endured far more than most people ever knew. Before she found peace, she walked through years of pain. Tina Turner was born Anna Mae Bullock on November 26, 1939, in Tennessee. Long before she became a global icon, she was a little girl growing up in a difficult environment. Her childhood was far from stable. Her parents' relationship was deeply troubled, and after they separated, Tina was eventually raised for a time by her grandmother. Even as a child, Tina knew pain. She knew what it felt like to feel abandoned, to be left behind emotionally, and to be forced to grow up too soon. Those wounds stayed with her, even after the world came to know her as a superstar. When she was young, music became an escape. It became a way to express what could not be said out loud. In time, that gift would change her life forever. Her life took a dramatic turn when she met Ike Turner. He recognized her talent, and together they created a sound that captured attention. The Ike and Tina Turner Revue became famous for its explosive performances and undeniable energy. On stage, they were unforgettable. They looked powerful, exciting, and larger than life. But behind the scenes, Tina's life was becoming a nightmare. What the audience did not see was the pain she was living with in private. Her marriage to Ike Turner was marked by abuse, fear, and control. While the world applauded her strength on stage, she was suffering deeply away from the spotlight. When she later spoke openly about the violence and emotional torment she had endured, the truth shocked many people. It is hard to imagine how someone could perform with such passion while carrying so much pain inside. But that was Tina Turner. Night after night, she gave the world everything she had, even while her own life was falling apart behind closed doors. For years, she felt trapped, not just emotionally, but financially and professionally as well. Her name, her fame, and her career were all tied to a man who had caused her immense suffering. Escaping that life was not simple. It meant risking everything. And yet, one day, she did what many thought was impossible. She walked away. When Tina finally left Ike Turner, she did not leave with wealth or security. She left with almost nothing. She had no real safety net, no guarantee that the future would be kind to her, and no certainty that she could rebuild what had been destroyed. But she had one thing that could not be taken from her. She had herself. Starting over in midlife is difficult for anyone. Starting over after years of abuse, public pressure, and personal heartbreak is even harder. Many people might have disappeared into silence after what Tina had been through. Many might have given up. But Tina Turner refused to disappear. She rebuilt her life piece by piece. She fought for her career. She fought for her identity. And in one of the most remarkable comebacks in music history, she rose again. In the 1980s, Tina Turner became bigger than ever before. Her solo career exploded. She was no longer known as one half of a painful partnership. She was now Tina Turner in her own right, stronger, wiser, untouchable. Songs like What's Love Got to Do With It helped turn her into a global phenomenon. The woman who had once been dismissed, controlled, and nearly destroyed was now one of the biggest stars in the world. Audiences were not just seeing a singer, they were witnessing a survivor. That comeback was more than success. It was justice. It was the world finally seeing her not as a victim, but as a woman who had fought her way back from darkness. And yet, even after all that triumph, pain did not leave her life for good. As the years passed, Tina began to face new battles. These were not the battles of fame or career. These were deeply personal, physical struggles, the kind that happen quietly, away from cameras, when the applause has faded, and the body begins to carry the weight of everything it has endured. In her later years, Tina Turner faced serious health problems. She suffered a stroke. She was diagnosed with intestinal cancer. She also dealt with kidney disease and kidney failure. This was a devastating condition that brought her face to face with mortality in a painfully real way. For someone who had spent her life appearing powerful, energetic, and almost invincible, this chapter was heartbreakingly human. Tina was no longer fighting for a comeback. She was fighting for her health. She was fighting for time. She was fighting through pain that could not be solved by talent, fame, or strength alone. And yet, she kept going. In one of the most moving chapters of her later life, Tina was supported by her husband, Erwin Bach. Their relationship brought her something that had been missing for much of her life: peace, loyalty, and genuine love. After all the pain she had experienced, that kind of love must have felt almost unbelievable. When her health declined and her kidneys began to fail, Erwin donated one of his kidneys to her. It was an extraordinary act of love, and it revealed something deeply emotional about Tina's final years. After surviving abandonment, abuse, and heartbreak, she had finally found someone who stood beside her with complete devotion. That did not erase the pain she had known. It did not undo the years she had suffered, but it gave her something precious in the end. It gave her comfort. Even so, Tina's later years were not easy. There was still illness, there was still weakness, there were still memories of everything she had survived. So when people think of Tina Turner only as glamorous, powerful, and triumphant, they miss the full truth. Yes, she was all of those things, but she was also a woman who carried deep emotional scars. A woman who knew instability from childhood. A woman who survived abuse. A woman who suffered profound personal pain. A woman whose body eventually began to fail after a lifetime of fighting. And maybe that is what makes her story so unforgettable. Not just because she was a legend, but because she was human. Because beneath the wigs, the heels, the spotlight, and the voice that could shake an arena, there was a woman who kept choosing to live, kept choosing to rise, kept choosing to move forward even when life gave her every reason to collapse. That is a different kind of greatness. It is easy to admire success. It is easy to celebrate records, awards, and chart-topping songs. But Tina Turner's real power came from something deeper. It came from endurance. She endured what might have broken someone else forever. And even when the world saw her as strong, it is important to remember that strength does not mean the absence of pain. Often, true strength is carrying pain and continuing anyway. Tina Turner did that for decades. By the time she reached the final chapter of her life, she had already lived several lifetimes worth of sorrow, struggle, and reinvention. She had been a wounded child, an abused wife, a shattered woman trying to rebuild, a global superstar, a survivor, a patient. And through all of it, she remained Tina Turner. In her final years, she lived more quietly in Switzerland, away from the constant noise of celebrity life. After decades of giving the world everything she had, she seemed to step back into a more private space. It was as though the woman who had spent so much of her life fighting had finally reached a place where she no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. She had already done enough. She had already survived enough. When Tina Turner passed away on May 24, 2023, the world mourned not only the loss of an icon, but the loss of a woman whose story meant something profound to so many people. She was more than a singer. She was a symbol of resilience, a symbol of survival, a symbol of what it means to keep going, even when life is merciless. Her death felt heartbreaking because it was the end of a life that had contained so much pain and so much courage. But perhaps there is one comforting thought in all of this. After everything she endured, after every wound, every loss, every illness, and every battle, Tina Turner finally found peace. And maybe that is what makes her story so emotional. Not just that she suffered, but that she survived long enough to reach a quieter ending. Not just that she was broken, but that she rebuilt herself again and again. Not just that she was wounded, but that she still gave the world beauty, music, and strength. Tina Turner's journey was painful. It was tragic in many ways, but it was also extraordinary. She showed the world that survival can be beautiful, that strength can be born from suffering, and that even after a lifetime of pain, peace is still possible. That is why Tina Turner will never be forgotten. Not only because of the songs, not only because of the voice, but because of the woman she became after everything tried to destroy her. And in the end, that may be her most powerful legacy of all. If Tina Turner's story moved you, please subscribe to the channel for more heartbreaking stories about the lives and final journeys of the world's most unforgettable stars. Let us know in the comments which legend you would like us to cover next.